and this is Project 3 Language Choices in My Community. Everyone has their own unique communities that communicate with each other in vastly different ways. Every community or culture has their own language choices that they make every day without even thinking about them. Although the language choices we make are quite different from person to person, they are not random. Everything from our lives can contribute to how we make language choices and use them in our communities. Everyone also usually has a lot of different communities in their lives, and each of those communities also have different language choices that they must adapt for each situation that they are in. I have many communities that I am a part of in my life, but for this, I am going to discuss my friend group's language choices and what factors went into making those language choices a common practice in that community. So, what are the language choices in my community, and how are those influenced by how we interact with the world? Before we can evaluate the language choices in my community, we need to evaluate what they are starting with and some expectations that they have for communication. We communicate through talking and writing. We talk on calls and in person, and we write text and game chats. There are many different types of communication depending on whether we are talking or writing. They seem similar at first glance, but there are definitely a lot of fundamental differences in what we say and how we say it through those mediums of communication. While talking, especially when in person, we are able to have much livelier and better conversations. There are a lot of things that make communication a lot better in person, but one of the main ones is the ability to use and read other people's body language. Body language is very important for conveying information. Words are great in conveying facts, but feelings are a lot more difficult to convey through words. Body language is the opposite, where it is terrible at conveying facts, but a lot better at showing feelings and emotions. Communication in person gives us the opportunity to see the full context of somebody's body language while still receiving the spoken information. While talking over call, there is a lot less available body language, but there is still some from the tones of people's voices. What they say and how they say it can still be a lot more effective than through other methods of communication, such as texting. Communication through writing is a lot different than verbal communication in my friend group. Writing or typing takes a lot more time and effort than talking, but is more convenient because it is almost always accessible. Instead of just thinking about the words that you want to say and just saying them, when you are writing for communication, you need to think about a lot more. You usually put more time into what you are saying because it takes longer to type than to speak, and with each word you not only have to think about what word to use, but also how to spell it. You also need to consider all the different rules with grammar and punctuation to make sure the message is accurately conveyed. Because writing takes so much longer a lot of the time, people say less and try to find ways to speed up their language, like using slang or abbreviations. It also has no body language, and therefore it misses out on a lot of the different benefits of communicating in person. So it is usually used for less important things. Len Barkowski researched this and found, supporters of traditional phone calls agree that texting has its uses for what MIT professor Sherry Turkle has described as quick, logistical, or low-priority communications, end quote. Texting in my community is great, but usually only used for quick things that are not very important most of the time, because talking is much more effective. Now that we have established the different methods of communication, we can dive into the more specific expectations and language choices that my community uses. There are a lot of different factors that go into the language choices of my community. Each video game that my friend group plays comes with its own set of terms and phrases that have become ingrained in the way that we communicate with each other. A lot of the different references or terms would go over most people's heads, and they would not fully understand what is being said or what the words mean. We also have a lot of inside jokes that have come from us knowing each other for such a long time and having shared experiences that we've referenced or found funny. That only means something to us because we were the ones who lived it. And when we talk about the inside jokes, we usually leave out the context because we already know it by heart. Other people would be very lost when hearing my community's inside jokes. A lot of communication also comes through each person in the community's own unique and interesting interests. We are all very passionate about very different things, and we like to talk to each other about those unique interests. Because of this, we expect the other people in the community to know some of the important terms and phrases from those interests and not fully explain them every time. My community has a lot of different shared interests between all of us. There are a few big ones that everyone is very passionate about, and then there are other ones that one person is passionate about. But their passion makes everyone else also interested in the topic and makes it so that we love to hear about the topic and what they're doing with it. All of these are huge factors in what shapes the way that we communicate. Everyone in my community loves the game Minecraft. Minecraft is a game of endless possibilities that became one of the most influential games to ever exist. According to John Farrar, quote, "People tend to forget this tidbit of before Microsoft bought the rights to the game for a cool $2.5 billion, end quote. It is unheard of before or after for an indie game with one developer to be sold for such a high price. This shows how impactful the game would have had to have been for it to be sold for that much. We play a lot of different games. Minecraft is our favorite and one that we all like. Some of the other games we play, some people don't like and they end up doing something else. But when we play Minecraft, everyone gets on and together we have a blast. There are so many different communities within Minecraft, and they also have their own language that they use. This makes it so that this one game builds a lot more on our language choices than any other game could. My friends are a part of a lot of different Minecraft communities. I usually like to build in the game and see it as a good creative outlet and sometimes play PvP or player versus player game modes with other people, even though I'm not very good at them. I also really like the survival mode in Minecraft, but I usually still focus on building houses and other structures when I play it. My friends do a lot more than me when it comes to Minecraft. They also like survival mode, but they like to make the most powerful gear and create huge farms to get resources super fast. They also like to build redstone contraptions and try to push the game to its limits. They are huge fans of PvP and probably the only reason that I ever play it. One of my friends plays on a server that is on an older version of the game, where the PvP is different. Other friends play the most difficult type of PvP that doesn't use typical weapons, but is far more destructive. The type of PvP that they like to play is called crystal PvP. With this PvP, you use exploding crystals to blow up enemies, and if you are inexperienced like me, you can die multiple times within seconds. This form of PvP is far too complex for me, and I try to avoid it as much as possible. They also try to play on a few servers that YouTubers own, where they try to get to the top of the leaderboards and kill a lot of people. One of my friends is really passionate about YouTube statistics. YouTube brings a lot of jokes to our community that we reference regularly. And we also get more technical terms from hearing about the different statistics from my friend. I never knew how much goes into the algorithm to make good videos that the algorithm will push out. I always just thought that it was luck, and even though that is still a factor, there's a lot more that goes into it. I also learned that especially today, it's very important to know about YouTube statistics and algorithms to keep up with the competition. According to Dustin Wellborn and Will Grant, quote, "The evolving demographic of content creators on YouTube has meant the amateur science communicators now compete for views with large, well-funded corporations like the British Broadcasting Corporation and the Discovery Channel. As YouTube has become more popular, more people have tried to start channels and find out how to be successful through the platform. This has led to the competitive side of YouTube growing exponentially, making it a lot harder to build a successful channel without knowing the algorithm. There are a lot more graphs from statistics than I expected, which led to more technical things like that, helping to influence the language choices that we make in my friend group. Another one of my friends really likes 3D modeling in a program called Blender. They love to sculpt and animate things in the software. Blender has a lot of unique tools and software that makes the 3D modeling process a lot easier, at least if you know and understand the software. This friend also likes to use Blender terms in conversation, which in turn leads the rest of us to also start using the terms when we speak. I have also tried to learn Blender a few times, although I have not been successful yet, which has led me and my friend to have conversations about the different aspects of the software and how to create things in it. I've had a difficult time getting over the learning curve of Blender. It seems like after you get the basics down, Glenn Southern said Blender feels more technical and less artful. Quote, "It all becomes part of one seamless creation process, and Blender has got this down to a fine art," end quote. This shows that over time, Blender gets easier and eventually becomes a seamless process, which my friend has found. Having Blender as a method to create art has also led to more artistic perspectives popping up in our language, and it helps us try to look at things from a more artistic perspective. All of these different interests have shaped our communication, making it very unique and helping us communicate with each other faster and more efficiently while making the conversations more fun and engaging for everyone in the community. Our language choices revolve around our favorite parts of life, and I would not have it any other way. The language choices in my community come from the things that we are interested in. My community has a lot of different expectations for making communication easier and faster. Sometimes the expectations are based off the type of communication that we are using, either verbal or written. There are a lot of different references that we expect each other to know, and there's also a lot of inside jokes that we have. Each hobby that we have or video game that we play gives us a lot of different choices for the language that we use and shapes our community for the better. Minecraft and its many different communities give us a lot of different terms to use and phrases that you wouldn't find anywhere else. YouTube has brought up a lot of jokes and memes as well as some more statistical language choices further broadening our communication. 3D modeling has brought a more artistic perspective to our language choices and brought a lot of discussions about art. The language choices in my community come from everything that we are passionate about, and they give us a much broader perspective of the world. From my community, I have found out that everybody has important skills and different life experiences, which is needed to make the world better. Nobody can do everything on their own, so we need other people, especially if they are different from us, for new perspectives, to better understand the people and the world around us, and to learn from each other how we can be the best people that we can be. And that's the end.